So, I want to start with, have you ever asked your math, physics, or chemistry teacher questions like, do we even need to learn all of these mind-blowing formulas on board, for example, or like complex? I did. How many of you did actually? Can you raise your hands? Okay, so many of you. So I did a lot of times in the past, and the answer I used to get usually sounded like, well, to get into university, what do you mean? But of course, I wasn't satisfied with the answer. So I started to dig deeper in it, and I went and changed the question. So when I changed the question, everything changed around me. I didn't ask, why do we need to learn all of these things, or do we really need to learn this? But why this thing was introduced in science, or can I go and apply it in my real life? So for example, you all know multiplication table from your childhood, as it was like torture to learn it. So in fact, multiplication table can come really handy when you want to calculate the area of some place, for example, for architecture. That's one application of multiplication table. So basically, when I changed the question, everything changed around me, and I started to see why. I started to see the difference. So we as people, observe this universe and try to put everything into a measurable form. We try to interpret everything into the language that we as humans understand. And that language is math, physics, or chemistry in general. I mean, science in general. So here's another question to you. Have you ever asked yourself, have you ever wondered, how is it even possible to describe this complex and mind-blowing world with a bunch of formulas? Which are what? They are just a bunch of like letters, like randomly placed alphabetic letters or numbers. They don't exist in this world. They are abstract. You don't see numbers like formulas or something like that around you. They don't physically exist, but amazingly, they do work. They work, but how do we know they work? Well, of course, they work when you want to like solve some kind of problem in your textbook, or as my teacher pointed out, you can be sure that they work when you enter, like when you try to apply to university. Of course, sure thing. But look around you. Look how far the science has come. Technology, sure thing. For example, internet or AI is the most powerful tool that nowadays is exploiting all abilities of science. So, and the most amazing one, by the way, is space exploration. How come, like, look at us, we as humans start to launch rockets into space? Isn't that crazy? Isn't that crazy enough to prove my point? I hope you're getting my point, guys. Isn't it crazy enough to prove that science resulted in something enormous? Like, let me put it into another words, like abstract concepts resulted in tangible, touchable results. All of them are products of science, the things that I listed above. So, for example, I mean, all of them take math, physics, or like science in general as their fundamentals. So, I'll give you one classic example. So, Einstein, classic example. This is Einstein, in case you don't know him. So, something you might not know about him, that Einstein was not an experimental physicist. He did not go and did experiments on anything, like stars, planets, or something like that. He was theoretical physicist. Look how his room looked like. This is just a bunch of papers, boards, and chalk, like board and chalk, nothing more. Imagine him sitting in his room and writing a bunch of formulas on paper or like on board and coming up with something really incredible that changed the way how we see this world nowadays. And now his contributions, like special and general relativity theories, contributed a lot to the modern world we see now. For example, recently, just 4 years ago, we took the photos of black hole for the first time. But he, decades ago, actually did something incredible in his room, and nowadays his works are helping us to explore space more. Okay, let me give you another example. Okay, Margaret Hamilton. She is leading software engineer in MIT University nowadays. In this picture, she's standing next to her computer code that she wrote with her team for rocket. And imagine, those stack of paper got humanity to the moon for the first time. Isn't that crazy? Isn't that amazing? That just formulas, let's say formulas, or just a bunch of codes, computer codes on paper got humanity to the moon. So, for example, you might say, those are just scientists, like it's typical. Okay. So, technical issues, sorry. So, you might say, those are just scientists. It's typical of them to perform such results. But what about us? What about humans? What about people who are not interested in science? As I said, technology. So, technology became part of our life. Home appliances, means of transport, your phones, your mobile phones, your laptops, your tablets, all of them are products of science. You cannot imagine your life without them. So you cannot deny the fact that science is really important nowadays. So, what I want to say, okay. Shoot. What I want to say, if you want to enter, next time you enter your science classes, think about it, like how science format our life, format our world, and you can be just fascinated by how science can move things forward, or how science reformed the way we see our world. Thank you.